For ex-Mr. Olympia Jay Cutler busts the biggest misconception around pro bodybuilding. Four-time Mr. Olympia champion Jay Cutler has spent decades around the highest level of bodybuilding, and one of the biggest lessons he continues to emphasize is that success in the sport is not built overnight. Cutler's message is straightforward: progress comes from consistently getting better, staying dedicated to the process, and refusing to let individual setbacks derail the long-term goal. That philosophy may sound simple, but it is one of the hardest concepts for aspiring bodybuilders to truly accept. The modern bodybuilding world is filled with dramatic transformations, massive physiques, viral workout clips, and impressive stage photos. Because fans usually see the finished product, it can be easy to forget what happens behind the scenes. The years of repetitive training, controlled nutrition, recovery, posing practice, and constant adjustments are largely invisible. Cutler's own career is one of the clearest examples of that long-term process. He won the Mr. Olympia title 4 times, in 2006, 2007, 2009, and 2010, while also finishing runner-up multiple times during the Ronnie Coleman era. The biggest misconception: there is a shortcut. One of the biggest misconceptions surrounding professional bodybuilding is that elite physiques are created simply by training harder than everyone else. Cutler's career suggests something much more complicated. Hard training matters, but hard training without consistency eventually becomes wasted potential. The difference between a promising bodybuilder and someone capable of reaching the professional level is often what happens over thousands of ordinary days. There are days when motivation is high. There are days when motivation disappears. There are workouts where everything feels perfect. There are workouts where strength is down and the body feels exhausted. There are days when the diet feels easy and days when sticking to the plan becomes a mental battle. The champion is the person who continues to execute the process. That is the mentality Cutler has repeatedly demonstrated throughout his career. Progress doesn't always mean more weight. Another important part of Cutler's philosophy is understanding what progression actually means. For many lifters, progression means adding another plate to the bar. But bodybuilding is not simply a strength competition. Progress can mean improving execution, controlling the eccentric, getting better contractions, increasing repetitions with the same weight, improving range of motion, or simply becoming more efficient at stimulating the target muscle. Cutler became famous for extremely high-volume training, but his approach was centered on building the physique rather than simply chasing numbers. Barben's review of his training history notes how consistent his exercise selection and overall training structure remained across his career. That consistency is important. You don't need to reinvent your workout every week. Sometimes the most effective strategy is to keep the movements that work, monitor performance, and gradually improve. Consistency beats constant change. The bodybuilding industry is constantly introducing something new. A new training split. A new exercise. A new diet. A new supplement. A new coach. A new secret technique. For an athlete trying to build an elite physique, that constant noise can become a problem. Cutler's career provides almost the opposite lesson. He built his physique through years of repeating fundamental movements and maintaining a recognizable training structure. According to Barben's examination of his training career, Cutler's basic body part split remained remarkably consistent even as his career developed. That doesn't mean his training never evolved. It means that evolution doesn't require abandoning everything that already works. Instead, the goal is to identify what works, continue doing it, and make intelligent adjustments when necessary. The daily battle matters more than the big moment. Bodybuilding fans often focus on the Olympia stage. They see the lights. They see the posing. They see the final conditioning. They see the trophies. But the trophy is the result of everything that happened before the athlete ever walked onto the stage. Cutler's rise illustrates that perfectly. A profile examining his early development describes how disciplined he was with his training and nutrition, including tracking calories and repetitions while maintaining an extremely structured approach. That level of discipline is not glamorous. It doesn't always generate viral content. But it is exactly what separates a long-term bodybuilding lifestyle from a temporary fitness phase. You have to respect the process. Perhaps the biggest lesson from Cutler is that bodybuilding requires patience. Muscle takes time to build. Weak body parts take time to improve. Conditioning takes time to develop. Posing takes time to master. Experience takes years. There is no realistic way to compress years of development into a few months. An athlete can improve quickly during the early stages, but eventually progress becomes slower and more difficult. That's where dedication becomes even more important. When progress is fast, everybody feels motivated. When progress slows down, discipline becomes the deciding factor. Cutler's career is proof. Cutler's own Olympia history makes this lesson particularly powerful. He didn't simply win one Olympia and disappear. He won in 2006, successfully defended the title in 2007, lost to Dexter Jackson in 2008, returned to win again in 2009 and successfully defended his title in 2010. That comeback mentality is a major part of his legacy. After losing the Olympia title in 2008, Cutler returned the following year and reclaimed the championship. That demonstrates an important reality about professional bodybuilding. One bad result doesn't define your career. What matters is how you respond. The importance of recovery. Consistency also doesn't mean destroying yourself every day. Cutler has spoken about the importance of managing training volume and allowing enough recovery when increasing training frequency. In advice about training a muscle group twice in a rotation, he recommended reducing volume rather than simply doubling the workload, while also considering recovery for related muscle groups. That's an important distinction. Working harder isn't always the answer. Sometimes progressing means knowing when to push and when to recover. The best bodybuilders aren't simply good at training. They're good at managing the entire system. Training, nutrition, recovery, sleep, posing, stress, competition preparation. Everything has to work together. Dedication is more than motivation. Motivation is temporary. Dedication is a decision. This is where Cutler's message becomes relevant beyond professional bodybuilding. You don't need to feel motivated every morning to follow your plan. You need a system that allows you to continue even when motivation isn't there. That means preparing meals, showing up for training, tracking progress, adjusting when something isn't working, getting enough recovery, repeating the process, and doing it again the next day. The individual day may not seem important, but thousands of those days eventually create the physique. Don't chase someone else's timeline. Another mistake young bodybuilders make is comparing their progress to elite professionals. They see an Olympia-level athlete and wonder why they don't look the same after a few years of training. But professional bodybuilders have spent enormous amounts of time developing their physiques. Genetics also play a major role in determining muscle shape, proportions, structure, and how an individual responds to training. The correct lesson isn't to copy someone's exact routine. The lesson is to learn how to maximize your own potential. What works for Cutler may not work identically for another athlete. But the principles of patience, consistency, progression, and dedication remain valuable. The real secret isn't sexy. The bodybuilding world loves secrets. People want to know the special exercise, the secret diet, the perfect split, the magical supplement, the ultimate technique. But Cutler's career tells a much less exciting story. The real secret is often doing the basics exceptionally well for a very long time. Train hard. Eat appropriately for your goal. Recover. Track your progress.